Hey guys, Joe here, the guy who got to watch 28 years later and go see the Wu-Tang Clan in the same week. It's a pretty good birthday week that sadly ended a little awkward for me. Today was a nightmare. Just, oh my God, I'm getting off some meds. So I've been like struggling with sleep. So I've been like napping a lot today. And I've been dealing with a big headache from the changing of medication on myself. That's another whole thing altogether. You know what the worst part of this week though? But this card sucked because I'm here to talk about UFC Fight Night Baku, I think that's what a lot of people are calling it. And I was actually kind of excited for the last two fights of the card, and it wasn't great. It felt very middling card again. So let's get into it because there's something much more important to talk about that I'm going to spend most of my time talking about. Khalil Rountree basically got a unanimous decision win over Jamahal Hill, and I'm gonna be honest, Hill might have some of the worst footwork I've seen for a top level guy. You know, he's former champion. I don't take anything. I don't hold his reign against him. I know a lot of people go, he was champion. It feels like he was champion, but I mean, it is what it is. You know, I Jiri got hurt for like a little, history in case people forgot. Jiri was champion, and he was because it was Dominic Reyes, in my opinion, was champion because he beat Jon Jones, his first title defense, as I think of it. Loses to Jan Blachowicz. Jan loses to Glover. Glover loses to Yuri, and Yuri gets hurt. And then it's Glover, Jamal Hill, and Jamal. I always want to say Jamal Hill. But it's Glover versus Hill. Hill wins by decision. He gets injured and can't defend the title against. So they do Alex Bejeda in Yuri, which Alex Bejeda wins. What they do? Was it Alex Bejeda in Yuri? Well, they tried doing. Remember, they tried doing Ankalaev and Blachowicz, which Dana White said was one of the worst fights ever. That fight isn't that bad. Like that fight is not bad. I think that fight, if I were to rate it on I watched that fight recently. If I were to rate it on the retro review, it's like a six, where it's like an average fight. Five is like like right in the middle. It's like a six. There's some genuinely, exciting things that happen, and then Jamal Hill he comes back for injury to fight Pereira, and he talks a lot of crap about Pereira, gets leveled and KO'd like it's nothing in round one. Fights Yuri, gets dominated, and then here he is losing to Khalil Rountree. And his footwork, I don't know how if I've never noticed it. I remember him looking pretty bad against Yuri. Yuri looked really, really good against him. But, and that could have been, I kind of consider that more of a Yuri great performance than a Hill bad performance. But man, Hill looked bad, like really bad here tonight. Um, I don't think I've seen Hill ever look this bad. And his just footwork wasn't there. Roundtree was on the outside using good footwork, using his trademark low kicks, which were phenomenal. But he never really seemed he knocked down Hill twice in the fight, but it never really felt like he was looking to finish the fight. He looked like he was down to, as Misha Tate would say, just coast a little bit. And it just kind of is what it is. Um, I I thought I like Khalil Rountree. I hate how he got a title shot. He got a title shot off of this fight actually being canceled. This fight got this was a fight there fight do this fight last year. This fight got canceled. Then he pops hot, and then they get the title shot after popping hot. It's really weird, and the only reason I think it was done was so they could kind of continue the Pajeda reign and avoid the Ankalaev fight as long as possible. But this fight wasn't good. This fight wasn't very good at all. And even like the low kick, I'm a low kick sucker, and this fight was not doing it for me. His leg though, it was his lead leg. At the end they showed the comparison of his lead leg compared to his normal leg. His lead leg was like this, whereas his like normal leg was like this. Because he's kind of already a chicken leg guy, and he was pretty awesome. Um, I don't think that's the worst I've seen legs be after a fight like that. The worst ever, I think, still probably at least the most iconic. I don't know if it's the worst ever. I'm sure someone can think of a worst ever, but the most iconic, of course, is the Uriah Faber after his fight against the GOAT, Jose Aldo, where Aldo literally like he made his back leg because your Faber had switched stances a couple times and took a couple kicks. For people that don't know, if you've trained, you know that your back leg is not used to getting kicked. So people will be like, "Oh, he switched to his front leg, or he switched stances, took a couple kicks, and switched back over. I wonder what's wrong." Your back leg is not used to being kicked. Not Andy Hug, Rob Kaman was used to in Muay Thai and kickboxing kick the back leg intentionally. He would kind of come across your front leg almost and kick your back leg because your back leg isn't used to getting hit. Andy Hug would do a hug tornado spinning back kick or spinning wheel kick into your back leg sometimes, or would jam your knee in your lead leg sometimes because your back leg isn't used to getting hit. So Faber got hit a couple times, and so his back leg was looking pretty bad. But then he shows his front leg. He lifts up his board shorts up, and his front leg was probably the size of his torso, it looked like, and was just black, like black with like it was like purple. I think it was purple with like a deep black mark. It was clearly from like a shin hitting it over and over. It's disgusting in the coolest way possible. I genuinely love showing people like there's a girl I'm interested in right now actually, and I'm hoping that if like we start talking a little more, I can be like, "Want to see some fights?" And I might show her, be like, "Do you think low kicks are useless? What about this?" I always love it when like someone I'm showing fights go, "Are white people low kick?" It's a perfect excuse to show them that fight, and then the aftermath, which is the best part. Anyways, I you can tell I have fun in this fight when I'm talking about Jose Aldo. I'm looking for an excuse to talk about Jose Aldo. Um, But yeah, that was it for the main event. I don't think Khalil Rountree moves. I think if we really want to see, I don't think he's getting a title shot off this. I could see them doing Khalil Yuri for a number one contender fight next. But most likely he might be kind of lost in that shuffle. So who knows? 205 isn't very good right now, so that is something that Khalil Rountree can definitely enjoy. Maybe they'll give him Rakic. Co-main event, the fight I was actually most excited for, Rafael Fiziev and Ignacio Bahamondes. Fiziev outstruck Bahamondes for a unanimous decision win, and which kind of makes sense to me. That's what the most likely outcome was. Bahamondes is a very good striker. Fiziev is probably best pure striker on a technical level in that division. Funny I say that, but he's lost to Gaethje twice. Gaethje just has better coaches. Like nothing against Tiger Muay Thai. Tiger Muay Thai is one of the best gyms on the planet for Muay Thai, of course. He's their head coach and striking there at Tiger Muay Thai, or Rafael Fiziev is. But at the same time, having Trevor Whitman in there, the master himself going, "Hey man, maybe like don't throw everything with power. How about you just try touching him for 40% and watch it how much that builds up," and like, stuff like that. Like um and honestly those fights are, actually pretty competitive and for a decent amount of them. And Gage just is a better fighter at the end of the day, even now. But Fiziev, big, good, really good seeing him get a win because he was off with injury for a long time. Comes back, fights Justin Gaethje, loses. Really good to see him get a win here, and because he just is a better striker than Bahamondes, and Bahamondes doesn't have the wrestling to necessarily force this fight to the mat like he would need to. Even if you would have to imagine he's a better grappler here. It was a pretty good fight. I still think both these guys have a lot of upside, a lot of fun upside. So, the fight was fine. It just wasn't. it wasn't explosive like we want. Like that's a case of a fight. I'm sure in like a couple weeks I'm gonna be like, well, that fight wasn't that bad. Why was I harsh on it? It's just disappointing, you know. It's just disappointing, and that's okay, you know, because for me, the sport is much less entertainment first, and it's more, you know, who's the best, like a sport second for me, or it's a sport first, entertainment second for me. Is actually what I mean. Now the rest of the card, Curtis Blades barely skates by Rizvan Cunha for a split decision win. Um, Mike Tabak, I think that's how you say it. I'm butchering it probably. Otobai got a first round Kimura over Tafik Muzayev. Nazim Sadikov got a KO over Nicholas Mata in round two. Seong Ho Ko beat Oben Elian by unanimous decision. Jung Yoon Park got a unanimous decision over Ishmael Nawadeev. And this is funny. This is the last fight I saw before I went and did some volunteer work at a convention this week. And that's the first fight I saw because I got back when the card was already on. And I got to watch the opening. There were some wild fouls in it. The most outlandish. They took a 2 point deduction for a knee to a grounded opponent, and I felt like it was more so like, oh, that knee was pretty bad, but I also watched you eye poke him like 4 times before that, so I'm kind of preemptively taking points away for that. It was really bad, like fouls in this fight. I think it was some bad officiating, in my opinion. I don't even remember who officiated it either. Um, Daria, Daria Zelezniakova, did I say that right? Zelezniakova, I think that's how it was. Beat Melissa Mullins by unanimous decision. Claudia Segula beat Irene Alexieva, I believe, by unanimous decision. Tagir Ulanbekov by unanimous decision over Azat Maksum. And Muhammad Usman, or Mo Usman, opened up the card with a win over Hamdi Abdel Wahab by, you guessed it, Frank Stallone. I mean, unanimous decision. Sorry, Norm MacDonald. I think it came in there. Big thing to talk about, and I've already been like 12 minutes here, 30. But the big thing to talk about is Jon Jones retires. I've always been real respectful of fighters when they retire, regardless of my opinion of them or if I was a fan of them or not. I've always maintained a level of respect, and I'm going to get that out of the way now. Um, Thanks, I guess, for your contrib. This is the best I can do, guys. Your contributions to the sport. Um, while they were all negative, the sport is not in a better place since you entered, because we have to question each of your wins, and you've single-handedly ruined a lot of the good faith a lot of us have in light heavyweight. Um, you at least had a lot of gold, and you made money, and while a lot of that money seemed to have gone to lawyers and steroids and other illegal activities, illegal in the sport and in life, at least you did support a family, and that's good. You made enough money to be able to support a family, enough money to support a family, and you know do some horrible things on the side for fun. It's awesome. So, hope you enjoy retirement. And I know, and because and yeah, I know you have thin skin, but I also feel like if Jon Jones were to watch this, he might not understand what I'm saying. So I'll I'll translate it for him. Quack 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 quack. He's the biggest duck of all time. Biggest duck ever. Ever, dude. I never want to see a Chev fan ever say Nico ducked. Chev, she might have. I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna be with you there. She probably did. But not the biggest ever. Not the biggest duck at the pond. That's Jon Jones. Jon Jones literally got retired by Tom Aspinall and couldn't even fight the guy. He was going to retire him one way or another, I think. I think Tom Aspinall was going to knock him silly in round one and damage his. And in his mind, I'm sure he thinks that's probably going to happen. It's probably going to kill my legacy. How am I going to be able to tell people I'm the greatest ever if I get knocked out and slammed? And round one, especially with all the times he said Tom Aspinall is just a flavor of the month guy. You know, when you talk crap about a guy like that, then you lose, especially if you get finished like that. Like a lot of people expected that to happen. It just looks that much worse. So I'm gonna be honest though. I think if John would have just gone in there, you said, you know what, fine, I'll fight him. Goes in there, gets beat like we all. None of us know, right? There's no certainty in anything in life except death and taxes. Death, taxes, and a Jon Jones lawsuit and criminal charge, but we'll get to that later. Um, but you know, we all, most of us, I would say maybe 90% of fight fans, hardcore fight fans especially, I'd say about 90% of us are picking Tom Aspinall in the first two rounds by finish, by KO. I think the other 10% are saying uh, probably TKO. I think the other 10%. So, I mean, like, it's just kind of a bad matchup for John, and it's by a guy who right now has all the momentum and does not fight like a heavyweight. Which is he fights like a skilled middleweight. Especially with how fast he is. It's a terrifying guy to see come up in the heavyweight division. Especially when you're used to fighting undersized guys or uh, guys who are retired. Undersized guys or guys who are very one dimensional or just flat out retired. You're pulling out of retirement for. So it just is what it is. Um, yeah, this is bad. Like I think him ducking this way is harder on his legacy. I know he's like LeBron James. He's a little to me. He's the LeBron James of this sport. He's like a false king. LeBron James called himself King James. It's like a false king narrative to me. Jon Jones feels like that to me. You know, Yet he has to call himself the greatest ever. I've never heard George St. Pierre. I've never heard. I don't even consider him. He's not in the running because he's a steroid cheat. Anderson Silva is a lot of people's goat as well. I've never heard Anderson Silva. I've never heard GSP. I've never heard Aldo. Never. I don't think I've ever heard Mighty Mouse say they're the greatest ever. Jon Jones has to tell you that every other sentence. Dana White has to tell you about this fictional room that if we put people in, Jon Jones walks out of. He's really obsessed with that room. There's something dark, disturbing, and probably a little in that room, a fantasy of Dana White. It's funny, everybody always makes fun of Jon Jones lately for his, I don't know how to say it without being offensive because I feel like it is a little offensive. I've even asked some friends of mine who are part of that community, and I like, "Oh, I make a joke about this?" They go, "You don't." To my face, they just went, "You don't." I literally was talking about it today with a friend of mine. But there's allegations on Jon Jones that don't only like recently have had any like foundation. I feel like they've been pretty baseless until his recent trip to Thailand. But I mean, it's funny. I've always felt like Dana White felt kind of gave me more of that vibe personally. You know, Vince McMahon esque, big sweaty men. He's always had a thing for big sweaty loud men. He's always had a thing for. Um. Anyways, I'm curious what you guys think on this because I think this is worse on his legacy. So I already have a really low opinion of Jon Jones. I'm even willing to go ahead and Babe Ruth call my shot here. Next time we don't have a fight and Carl's like, "Hey, do you want to do a hot take video?" I'll just do it on Jon Jones. I got no problem with that. Obviously, it's all my opinion. This whole thing is my opinion. Um, and it just kind of is what it is. Like I'm not I'm not an expert on these sort of things. I like to think I am. I like to think I'm pretty darn good at what I do, but I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination here. I'm just genuinely curious if anyone feels the same sentiment as me on this Jon Jones thing because I think this is worse for his legacy. Let's say he isn't a steroid cheat. Let's say he isn't a steroid cheat. Let's say let's say none of the outside the octagon things happened. So no red light, no booger sugar, no T-boning, no drag racing, no running away from the scene of the crime, no domestic abuse. There's a long list. None of that. I don't want to go through the whole list. It's a huge list. None of that. If he does this, Does that kill his legacy? Like, if Stipe would have done this, if Stipe would have done this, or Fedor, Aldo, or George, or Anderson, would that have been a killer of his legacy? And I'm sure George, people kind of point to the Johnny Hendricks thing. Watch that fight again without being in the moment. George does win that fight. That is a clear George St. Pierre win. It's close and it's very competitive, and George does not look visually like he won, but he does. It's a really close one. That's my opinion, at least. That's my scorecard. Um, so I don't think that's a duck at all. Um, Aldo never duck. If Aldo ducks somebody at this, like in this kind of case, or Anderson or George or any of someone, like let's say Anderson retired to avoid fighting Chris Weidman. Actually, is a perfect example. Let's say he did that. Would that kill his legacy? You know, I think that's actually the perfect parallel. Anderson, because Anderson at the time, Anderson didn't have steroid allegations. He was never caught at this point in time. And he was definitely like, the golden goose. And he had a very, very well respected career. And Chris Weidman was this up and coming guy that everybody in the know, 2 years before he was in title contention, were saying, hey, this guy is going to be champion, and not just going to be champion. He's going to finish Anderson Silva. People in the know were saying that before I even made my infamous prediction to my friends the year prior. So, you know, so who knows? Like I said, genuinely curious how you guys feel on this. Because moving on, we're going to end with this fun little fact. So apparently, Jon Jones, as soon as he word gets out he's retired, hey, guess who just received word that a legal case is being presented against Jon Jones for hit and run. Apparently, a woman that was not his wife was found in the passenger seat of a car that Jon Jones, I believe, owns. I don't know the whole case. I'm only going to try to go off what I remember, so I want people to take these details with a grain of salt. I'm not saying this is law. I'm not saying this is the facts. I'm not. This is just how I remember it. I should have wrote this down, but I didn't. It's like 3:30 in the morning, and I'm very tired, and I have a headache. I apologize. Like I said, today's not been the best day. I blame this. I'm out. So I'm having to switch meds, and it's just driving me crazy. Um, but yeah, apparently, apparently she wasn't wearing just anything but a top. You know, um, and apparently Jon Jones was like seen running away in nothing but a shirt and sandals or something. I don't know. It's a weird case. Go look it up. It's a very weird case. But to be honest, it's one of those situations where it's like, oh, does this sound like this sounds a little too ridiculous to be true? Then you go, wait, Jon Jones did this apparently? Ah, man, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it did happen. I wonder this. This is my opinion. So, did he retire, or did the UFC, or is the UFC saying he retired? Because they're like, what if the UFC? There's a theory. There's a conspiracy theory in basketball that I also subscribe to, that everyone remembers Michael Jordan taking time off to go play baseball. People don't remember is the right before that, what prompted this in the press conferences is John, or not John, Michael Jordan's father had been killed in a robbery. But no, they didn't take the car. They just stopped him. He stopped, like almost like he knew the guy, and and then got away like a hit. It's odd. And then here comes the retirement and everything. So there's a theory that, and this is my favorite player of all time in basketball. Michael Jordan was suspended, but you can't outright say you're suspending the biggest pop culture icon on the planet from the sport that has become the biggest sport in the world at this point. You can't do that. So you you tell him you're going to have to go into retirement for a little bit, and you can come back. Yeah, but you're suspended, but we're going to tell everybody you're retired. And then because of because he might have owed, because he was a big gambler, he might have owed money into some organized crime, and that's when he got busted on, because he might have been betting on his own games, like, hey, I'm going to bet on my own games, I'm going to put up 50 tonight. Apparently, he would do that. He would be like, I want to bet, not that he would lose, but that he would just crush. He had that much supreme confidence in himself. And I wonder if this is a similar case where the UFC said, you're going to jail. We're stripping you of this title because you're an idiot. But we can't, after doing this whole thing where we've been praying and hoping that you're gonna finally that we're finally going to put you in the Tom Aspinall room and see who walks out. Little Dana White, sure that's how Dana probably presented it. After doing this whole thing for over a year now, like we can't. This is such a big PR disaster if we strip you finally of this, especially with the strip Jon Jones movement going on in their YouTube comments and Instagram and social media. You can't miss it. There's a huge movement. People just going like, "Oh, cool! Thanks for showing us the way in. Strip Jon Jones," like things like that. That they told him, "You're gonna retire, so you can leave with some dignity." I don't know. It's definitely a weird case. The timing is really convenient. Like I said, I've talked about this for a long time already. Genuinely curious. What do you guys think about this? I've been rambling for a while. Very unfiltered thoughts, very exhausted and headache-induced thoughts, but I think they're clear enough. Very genuinely curious what you guys think. I'm Joe with the INC. Thank you so much for watching.